Good morning. Yes, I want 555 to overcome 666. Not only for me, but for everybody on the planet. The title for the video that I'm shooting for Tuesday, the 23rd of September, is a question. Are fools confounding the wise of the world? Some of the comments on yesterday's video were critical of the idea of prayer and other spiritual methods of changing things in the physical world. Add a thing here. As I read these, I thought of the saying that God has chosen the foolish things to confound the wise of the world. I also thought of the fool in the tarot cards, the one willing to empty the mind of the programming of the matrix. Perhaps that is the most rational thing we can do to end the fraud and corruption so prevalent. After all, creation always takes place in the invisible realms first, not the other way around. Indeed, it is the unmanifest world that brings the manifest world into existence. I believe that there's an essential truth there that it's hard for us as physical beings to sometimes get our minds around. And it seems irrational to trust things that we can't see, to change things that we do see. And of course, all change actually begins within each of us. We have to not only change our minds, but change the attitude of our heart to, well, actually, maybe I'm saying that wrong, because as I said that, I thought the heart already has the right attitude. All it knows how to do is love. And the mind is the thing that needs to be changed because it needs attitude adjustments, because the mind has been programmed in the matrix to believe certain things are true, when even if we know that most of what we've been told is a lie, we have trouble believing that the reality does not come from what we see, but from what we don't see. That's a really tough thing for people that are still locked into the program of the matrix to grasp, that the invisible realm has anything at all, or the psychological realm even has anything at all to do with physical reality. And yet I'm convinced somewhat that it has to be that way. It has to be that way, that which is thought and spoken into existence from the invisible is what created everything in the first place and got the ball rolling. Now I say almost because, like everybody else in the matrix, I have doubts. And that would be foolish of me and untrue of me to suggest that I never doubt anything. The idea of having faith that is rock solid, if you believe in your heart, if you say to this mountain, be removed into the sea, and believe that it shall happen, it shall come to pass. Well, there's been lots of things that I thought I believed, and when I tried to carry it out in the metaphysical or spiritual realm, it didn't seem to produce the change that I was looking for in my experiential reality. And so there's been often times that I've argued with God and say, God, why don't you do something? You know, I'm asking, like you said, I'm seeking as you instructed. I'm knocking on your door. Please, God, please, will you please respond? Will you please answer? And still what continues to manifest is the problem. And sometimes it takes years maybe to see the answer to the prayer. And that may be the case with what we're doing now, because for years people have been complaining and praying, as the one writer suggested. People have been doing that for years, and we still have a world of corruption. We still have a world of evil. We still have a world where the dominant forces are malevolent beings. At least it looks that way based on the experience and what we observe with our five senses. And one of the things of spiritual practice is to get beyond the five senses, to develop sort of like the eyes, the ears, the senses of the heart. Because as I said, the heart always loves. The mind always fears and always mistrusts, or at least most of the time. So there has to become somehow a balance between the heart and the mind. The journey from the brain to the heart is probably the longest journey that anybody ever makes, even though it's only about approximately 1 foot or 1/3 of a meter, or however you want to measure it. It's not a big distance, but it's a huge distance because it requires the overcoming of the programming that has been instilled in the human family. The programming that teaches us that no matter what we do, we're always going to be slaves. Well, I don't want to be a slave anymore, and I know there's probably millions of people that are awake enough on the planet to not want to continue to be slaves. We want to overcome, and there are people at all levels of human society, from the elite establishment, as with the Dragon family, to the lowest levels, apparently, even the lowest levels of the caste system, if there was such a thing. I don't believe in caste systems, but I just used that term. The lowest levels, the poorest levels of our society, the people that don't seem to have any power or authority, they're waking up too and crying out, and many are becoming activists because they realize that it's not just what we pray for, but we have to back up we have to put faith into action somehow, some way. Everybody can pray, no matter where you are. And if that's all you're physically able to do in the circumstances of your life, then at least do that much. That's an action. You have to physically ask God for help. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, they will hear from heaven, and God will heal our land. And we need to get out of this Admiralty Sea where we're all considered dead by those that have been most programmed, the judges, the police, the politicians, the corporate leaders. Those that have been most programmed in the system need the most help, and we need to pray for those that exercise what they see as rule over us or as authority. They have no authority, but we need to help them see that they have no authority, because as long as they think they can exercise control, many of them will continue to do so and think they're doing the right thing. But it's a program, folks. It's a program that needs to be overcome, and we need to overcome it in the realm of thought, the realm where the mind control has taken place, and we need to somehow break the chains, figuratively, of that mind that is controlled by the false programming of the lie. We need to be able to overcome that and move beyond it. Now, I made a video a couple of days ago. It was the second video that I made actually for Sunday, the 21st, in which I talked about Kate of Gaia. Now, I've listened to 2 or 3 actually of his audios. They're not videos, they're audio programs. I didn't listen to all of them, but I listened to over an hour of one and over an hour. I guess it was 2, and then I read some of the things on his page. I'm not going against what Kate of Gaia is saying. I do believe that the power of the system is in using the name. I don't think it always works, because some people in the system don't listen, no matter whether you try to not use the name or not, whether you go in as Jane Doe, what is it, 755 or whatever the code was, something like that. I wish it was 555, but I think it was 755. But in any case, some judges and some police are not going to respect anything that you do. I don't care what the remedy is. No remedy works 100% of the time. Now, eventually they say, well, you will be released. But who wants to spend a week or a month in jail to try to prove something? I certainly don't. I mean, some people may be willing to do that, but I do care what happens to me in the physical reality, in my physical experience. And most people do. And I don't think that that's wrong, because as Aristo always said, we have to embrace where we are if we're going to transform it. If we're only trying to develop a mindset that gets us out of the current situation, we have to start by recognizing where we are and telling the truth about it, telling the truth about how we feel about it. And that's what I try to do in these videos. I'm not trying to present a dogma or a doctrine, as Jace and Michael and the ambassador made so clear. We're not trying to set up a new religion. We're trying to set up a new way of dealing with the religions that we already have, and more specifically with the brainwashing that we already experience as human beings living on this planet at this time. We experience these things, and the way of dealing with it is telling the truth. The way of dealing with it is asking for help from that part of ourself, the higher self, the God that is in us, the divine, that is our essential being. We need to tap into that energy, that reality, that essence of who we really are. We are all children of God. Every one of us. There are not two caste systems from God's perspective. We are all God's children, even when we are totally unconscious, totally lost in the brainwashing of the culture, totally enslaved in the system. Even then, we are still sons and daughters of the living God. It doesn't have anything to do with belief. It has to do with existence. It has to do with creation itself. All creation belongs to God, whether we call it good or evil, whether it is malevolent or benevolent. It all belongs to God. God creates good and God creates evil, it is said, but does God really create evil? That's a question, something that I talked about with one of my friends a couple of nights ago. God doesn't specifically create evil, but he allows evil to be created. And since all creatures are God's children, all creatures, in that sense, God created the evil too, because he allowed free will. He allowed us to experience whatever it was we chose to experience. Now, right now, my prayer is stop these people that are violating my free will and the free will of others who have awakened enough to come into and to want a different reality, want a reality where their sovereignty and their individual will and rights are respected in the culture. And this is what 555 is all about. It's about overcoming this beast that is tyrannical in its nature, that exercises its will through the slavery of the financial system, which is built on lies, not anything of substance, but things of lies. Fiat currency is a fiction. All the paper money and everything is a fiction. Even the coins, in a sense, are fiction in our current society. They've taken out the gold and the silver. They've taken out the things that have substantive value, but of course even that's value that we give it. We make it valuable by our thoughts. So this idea of waging war and becoming the fool and emptying the mind as much as we can of the programming of the matrix is essential if we are together going to overcome the 666, the beast, the Antichrist, the everything which is producing the tyranny in our world. If we're going to overcome that, the key word is together. We have to individually be together with our higher self. Whether you want to call that God or some other term, it doesn't matter. But you need to be together with that as your ego. Your ego needs to form a bond with that part of yourself that tells the truth. A bond with the heart that always wants to love and always wants to forgive and always looks for the best in others. We need to form a bond there, and then we need to form a bond with each other. Together, we are stronger than the matrix. We are stronger than the programming. We are stronger than the mind control. We are stronger than the spells cast by language. We are stronger than the false contracts that we are deceived into making. We are stronger when we stick together, when we love one another, when we, instead of criticizing, that we at least give someone the benefit of the doubt first and let them prove themselves whether they are telling the truth or not. Many people try on the truth. They want to believe something and they state it as truth, and they haven't really gotten there yet to really believe it. Help them prove their belief in good. Help them prove their belief in righteousness. Help them prove their belief that there is, truthfully, an essence called God that loves us, that wants us to be liberated and free, that wants us to overcome all of the things that have weighed us down and wants us to break the chains of slavery, the slavery that's in our minds that has bound us to a cruel and unjust system. Think on these things. Embrace these things to the best of your ability. If you can't embrace it, tell the truth. This is how I feel. I tried this and it didn't work. Tell the truth to whatever you call God, whatever you call Creator. Tell the truth to yourself. Tell the truth to those friends around you that you can tell the truth to. Find someone that will listen and love you where you are, because it is the fool that overcomes the wise of the world. It is the invisible that ultimately will lay waste to that which is visible and yet not supported by love and truth, not supported by the reality of spiritual nature, of spiritual essence. Thank you for listening, and namaste.